Going to have some fun on the bayou. We got to leave this up for just a couple. My mistake. We're past time. Okay. We have returned. Welcome to the program. My name is Attorney Stephen Leahy. This is the Trust Radio Network. If you're watching this, you know all that. Do my iPad. I mean my what a podcast bump that my kids say. All right. Everybody loves puppies. Well, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the show, Attorney Olofsson. We had some. I watched the show again or listened to it, so I don't ask you the same question. And I told you then, I had a lot of fun on that show. That's usually the case. I usually have fun. But welcome back. Happy to have you back.
Nice to be here.
And today you brought a friend.
I did.
Introduce
Erich.
Erich.
Happy to be here.
Okay. Erich Screwwalla.
He's the only one in the phone.
That's a unique name.
In this state.
Where are you from? Oh, don't tell me. We're going to do the show. Let's do the show.
Hold on.
All there is to know.
Is it volume?
Hey, welcome to the program. This is the Trust Radio Network here on AM 560, The Answer. We're here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer. Thanks for all you do, Joliet. I appreciate it. Remember now, this show is sponsored by the Law Office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC, and Opum Tax Advocates. Opum Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems forever. We help them with audits and levies, liens and garnishments, collections, unfiled tax returns, and payroll tax issues. We also help them reduce their tax burden. There's three areas that are a problem. Most people have a problem. I was telling you this earlier. There's three areas, right? Either you owe the IRS money, not a good thing to do because they're pretty powerful, coming to get it from you, and they have become more powerful, as we all know. Or you have not filed any tax returns, and they're going to turn that around too. I can tell you they're coming after people with this. They call it the automated program, and with all these information returns that are out there, they're using them to come after you almost right away. And then the third thing is overpayment of your taxes. Most people fall into that third program, in that you overpay your taxes, you don't even know it. So take some action, and you have to do planning. You can't just pay it at the end of the year, just send it to your tax preparer. It doesn't work that way. You're overpaying if that's what you're doing. So give us a call, 312-664-6649. Again, it's 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Now, this is the Trust Radio Network, where we introduce you to trusted professionals, people you can trust when you're making important decisions. And as I always tell you, there's no more important decision than the attorneys you're going to hire to help you when you're having a problem. Nobody wants to hire an attorney. But when you have to, you better get a good one, right? And I know that people think there aren't any, but there's plenty of good attorneys out there. People you can trust. That's what the Trust Radio Network's about, is introducing you to trusted professionals. So when you need help, you know where to turn. And so that's what we're going to. So today we have a returning guest, Tom Olofsson, And he brought a friend, Erich Screwwalla. Did I get that?
Yeah. I'll tell you something. I worked for a firm for a long time.
Did you?
And the managing partner never ever in 10 plus years
Never
bothered to learn my name. So whenever he wanted me to come to his office, he would shout down the hall, "Hey,
I'm
buddy." So,
it is.
pretty awesome.
Well, now we got. I hate to go this route, but I'm going to ask you about your name. But tell me about your name.
So it's a very old-fashioned Persian Indian name.
Uh-huh.
That was going to actually be Percival, but thankfully my mom chose Erich instead.
Okay, that's. I'm dumbfounded. That's very good. That's very. I'm a traditionalist, so I like older throwback.
Yeah,
like Steven.
I did want to name me Rex. Rex.
You know, it's
Thank
funny.
God,
Kind
you
of
went
like
with that.
I know you have a large family. Did anybody get to be Rex?
No. I wanted to name my oldest Gunnar. It's a old Swedish name. My younger brother took them. So here's one of his kids.
Because when I was
boy.
So I have two sons, and one is Jake. He was born on St. Patrick's Day. So I always get the question, why didn't you call him Patrick? Well, that's our first son. He was named way before he was born. We didn't know he was going to be born on St. Patrick's Day.
For some reason, they don't let you switch, right?
Well, yeah, that's his name. You could have switched it today. I didn't know that he was going to be born on St. Patrick's. My other son, his name is Joseph, and he was born on St. Joseph's Day. But that's just a lucky coincidence because I already picked that name out too. I was that's a man's name, Joseph. So and Jake. That's a man's name. It always reminds me of the Dick Van Dyke Show. Sam, that's a man's name. I want to do business with Sam. And then they say, okay, Sam, sit down. So everything goes back to 60s sitcoms. So tell us what you do, Erich.
I'm an attorney. I do estate planning and entertainment law.
That's an odd.
Well, they both start with the letter E. So. And I'm also a recovering litigator. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that.
Hey, you said I didn't want to talk about litigation.
You don't want to talk about it?
No, you said you didn't.
No, it's not. It brings up. It brings up memories.
Were you a litigator or a trial attorney?
Oh,
okay. Because I know that some trial attorneys hate to be called litigators.
Well, trial attorneys was just the way I brought up my interaction, and then I realized I could just do entertainment.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and then I bounced around. I'm actually pretty new to the area. I moved here in January.
Here at Illinois?
Here in Illinois, yeah.
What brought you here to Illinois?
Well, my wife grew up in the area and decided it was time to come home. And in this current environment where I can be anywhere, and see anybody, and do anything, and work anywhere, I decided why not come where it's warm and the sun always shines. So we came to Illinois.
Well, that doesn't make any sense to me, but I get it. And Attorney Olofsson, I don't want to knock you out of this, but we already talked about where you come from, and he and I went to the same law school. Where did you go to law school?
I went to the Benjamin N. Cardozo School.
Oh, New York. Very nice. I have two sons. Both are in law school. What kind of advice would you have for my two sons that are in law school?
Oh, you don't want to ask me that.
Yeah, sure I do.
The advice is too late. They don't go to law school.
You don't like being an attorney?
There are things I like. There are things I don't like.
You could. One thing, once you're an attorney, you don't have to be.
Well, that's true.
You can always change.
I guess I kind of got stuck. But I guess I would say, if you are in law school, it's just don't be rigid in how you approach the stuff you do. And don't take classes because you think they're better. Nothing you're going to learn in law school is going to really give you a leg up or a leg down in anything you do. So just part of the law school, I think a big part of law school is just learning how to think, learning how to analyze, learning how to see both sides, and as much as possible, argue the side you don't believe in. because that'll make you a better advocate if that's where you choose to
No,
go.
that's all good, very good advice for everybody. I think. I think too many people get kind of corralled into what they're doing, and I did learn. Although when I was in law school, I always took all the classes I was interested in, just like I did when I was in undergrad. That's why I went into finance. I just started taking all the classes that I liked, that I was good at, and that's where I have a master's in information technology. That's what I liked.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
I had an advisor, my undergraduate advisor, would not let me pick a major until the registrar's office said, we're not going to give you any classes this fall until you pick one. And then my advisor and I picked my major based on what? You want to guess?
No.
What was going to be the easiest to finish based on what I'd already taken?
Well, that makes sense, though. You got to finish.
Yeah.
So, Attorney Olofsson, you are also a trust, helping with estates and trusts, don't you?
Do.
One thing I learned last time you were here, you told me that you do a lot of, you go to people's homes and the hospitals, and that's unusual. We're going to get into that. We're going to run out of time here, so I don't want to get into a story that you can't finish. But we got to. So tell people how they can find you, Attorney Olofsson.
Well, they can find me online, mytrustlawyer.com. They can also call my phone, which is, I'm going to give you a different one than last time. This is 773-905-1193. 773-905-1193.
I'm going to have to change it up here.
Give me a little bit of something to do. I know your editing staff.
Yeah, the whole staff is going to be on it.
A lot of time.
How can people find you? Screwwalla.
Yeah, so easy.
It is. I'll get it.
You can find me online at screwwallallc.com, and I'm not sure we have time to spell all of that.
We don't. But we're going to get it. We'll get into that the next segment, so you won't want to miss that segment, listeners, because that's what we're going to talk about. Now, remember, the show is sponsored by Open Tax Advocates. Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems. So go to chicagotaxteam.com if you're having a tax problem. If you're thinking about trust, we all should be planning ahead. And this is the same thing I tell all my clients about tax. We talked a little bit about this before, tax planning. Same thing with estate planning, right? You have to do it before the time. Attorney Olofsson was telling us about him going to hospitals at the last minute to help people, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that on the other side. You won't want to miss it. Here on AM 560, The Answers. Again, we'll be right back after these messages on AM 560, The Answer. How long have you been doing that? Don't tell me.
Be thinking of an answer. I'll point it in 2 minutes.
Let's go right into. Hey, welcome back to the program. You're going to learn all there is to know. They promised that before the show, so I have to fulfill that promise. Okay, maybe we'll fall a little bit short of that. But this is the Trust Radio Network on AM 560, The Answer. We're here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer. Our guests this week are Tom Olofsson, a state planning attorney, and another state planning attorney, Erich Screwwalla.
Awesome.
See, I did it. I'll get it by the end of the show. It won't matter anymore. But you also help practice with trust in the states.
Yeah, definitely.
And but first, I wanted to ask, because I kind of left a teaser on the last segment, so I have to ask Attorney Olofsson. You've been helping. You go to people's homes. You go to hospitals. You go where people are.
Years ago, I used to work in the insurance business. I worked for Prudential, and at that time, Prudential was a knock on people's door and talk to them at the kitchen table business. A lot of people would leave their premiums on the kitchen table and leave the back door open, and I would just walk in, scoop up the money, put it in an envelope, bring it back to the office, and so that's how I learned. So when I became a lawyer, it was kind of natural for me to want to go visit people in their homes, is where I felt comfortable. I knew they were comfortable. And too often, people wouldn't remember how to spell their daughter's married name. And I would want them to have their phone book there so they could look it up. And it just became much easier.
You're dating yourself.
Well, my clients still have phone books.
Now you mentioned last time you were here, you were telling us how you used to do the circuit. You want
Small towns.
Yeah, all the small towns.
Small towns. So small town lawyers now have broadened their horizons and don't just do traditional bill planning. They'll do a living trust for people now, and they actually have thriving practices in that. Well, when I started back in the 90s, living trusts were new, and the local lawyers, the local small town guys, hadn't caught on that it was a valid business. Their traditional thing was write a will, go to probate, write a will, go to probate. And they didn't realize that the customers, the clients, didn't want that. They wanted to have an idea of what this was going to cost and how long it was going to take their family and limit court involvement. And it was easy for me to go to small towns and ace them out of the business. Not anymore. The small town guys have as good or better practice than I do. And a lot of that has to do with the really fancy software that we have now.
Yeah.
And networks of lawyers who work together and share ideas, and it works better now than it used to.
You know, we always think about how the big city lawyers, how technology helps, right? But as you just pointed out, the smaller town lawyers also. And how many, like yourself, Attorney Screwwalla, can live anywhere, right? And so I had a client, I had an attorney on a couple of weeks ago, and she moved to Iowa, but she's still a Chicago attorney. So, you know, I got another one in Colorado. So, people are moving all over the place.
We have a colleague who runs a Michigan practice from the great state of Hawaii.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I learned recently that Puerto Rico if you move to Puerto Rico, you can avoid federal income tax. Did you know that?
I did know that.
There's a lot of nice deals living in Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands have some really great deals.
It's amazing.
Right.
And when I learned about it, it was maybe a month or two ago that I learned about it. I did a show on it. I'm like, this isn't. Then I found out, it's an old hat. It's been around for a long time, but nobody mentioned it to me. I have some clients now moving to Florida or moving, and trying to get away from the Illinois tax. Not an easy thing to do, but you can do it. But it's not an easy thing to do. When you go to people's homes, I did that a little bit when early in my career. I go to their home. Especially in your area of the law, as you said, people put this stuff off, and then they're getting sick, and they're like, I know I've been meaning to do this for 5 or 10 years, but I haven't. I better do it now.
I say about 6 months before you die is a good time. on the high end, it's better to do it when you're younger.
But most people don't.
Most people put it out, and it's a good idea. So the big times that people do it are when Uncle Bob, close friend or relative, got sick or died, or they themselves, the client, get a bad diagnosis. Those are the biggies. There used to be a third one right before they would get on a plane, and planes don't crash anymore.
Not really.
Not much. There was a blip in around 9/11 when younger people realized, oh my goodness, I could die, and that scared them. And now another big one is if you have a child with a disability. Having children is one thing, but having a child with a disability really makes it kind of in your face. Mm-hmm. I got to do something because this kid's going to outlive me.
Someone's got to take care of him.
Yeah, somebody's got to take care of him. We better set that up. So,
well, that makes sense.
Yeah, those are the biggies. Uncle Bob dies, bad diagnosis, kid with a disability, those kind of things.
Now, Attorney Screwwalla, you help people with that, and you're new here to Illinois. Yeah. So where are your clients?
Well, it's interesting because I actually started out also doing house calls in Brooklyn, New York. And one of the big benefits was that the people didn't want to take time out of the day. So we could meet people after work hours, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, go over to their house. Sometimes they'd serve you a nice couple lemonade. Most times they didn't. But again, it's a more comfortable environment for them. And when they're talking about stuff let's face it, it's not easy to talk about.
No, it isn't.
About mortality, right? For them to be in a comfortable environment where they feel safe, where it's familiar, it makes it easier to talk about a lot of these issues. And I would say that 95% of my clients early on were young families. So when people had kids, they were realizing, well, what happens if I can't raise this kid? What happens if something happens to me and my son or daughter is still 5 or 6 years old? And then you come to find out, well, I could do a will. This is how I got trust planning. You could do a will. I could name a guardian in the will. But what happens if the city bus runs me over and I'm in a coma for 6 months? Well, it doesn't matter what kind of guardian I name because I put it in a will. It's not going to do me any good if I'm still alive.
You said that there were young families that you were going to? Isn't that unusual? That young people think about that?
Everybody tells me that, but it was. I mean, I have to say, I was living and working in kind of a, like a baby mecca. So, Park Slope, Brooklyn was lousy for 30-somethings with young kids. And once they realized that they had to do something to protect their children, because let's face it, estate planning is not about you.
Exactly.
Right? You're dead. Yeah. Nothing's, you're not doing yourself any favors. What you're doing is you're protecting the people you leave behind. And when these families realized they needed to do something to make sure the kids were going to be taken care of, they all were very, very interested in doing something.
I always liked your what you told me about that the referee dies.
Yeah.
So I always like that.
Keep the kids from the players from killing each other when the ref dies.
So I've used that several times. I don't think I gave you credit, but maybe next time I'll give you credit. But that's it. But it makes sense, right? That's exactly what's going on. But it's hard to get people to spend money on something in the future, right? That might, I was going to say may or may not happen. It will happen. So,
God forbid I should die. I hear that so often. No, he doesn't. It's part of the plan.
It is part of the plan. And I think that's what, of course, prudent people make plans. But even us prudent people, sometimes we wait too long to make the plan, right? Because we put it off.
I think what most people don't realize is that whether you think you have or you don't, everybody has a plan.
I like that because I've heard that for the Illinois statute. I've heard is the plan. It kind of is a default.
Yeah, either you're going to make your own plan with your own rules, or the government's got a plan and some rules for you.
And it ain't good.
Some people may like it, but most people don't.
On a rare occasion, it could work out the way you want, but you'd have to die just in the right circumstance.
So, Attorney Olofsson, tell us how people can find you.
They can go to my website, which is mytrustlawyer.com. You'll love it.
And again, if you're thinking of a trust and you need someone, he'll come out to your house. Who does that? Attorney Screwwalla, tell us how people can find you.
On the web at screwwallallc.com.
So go there. Planning is so important. We all forget about it. Oh, I won't talk about tax planning. We'll do that another time. We're gonna come back to the Constitution segment. You won't want to miss it. So come right back here on AM 560. The Answer.
What is this thing? This is my new notepad.
Electronic.
I was so notorious for writing notes on paper and then losing them. Or writing on weird things. So it's remarkable. It is, yeah. So I've got everything. I've even got notes about you. And then, so I've got all these. Every month I put a new.
Very nice.
I can actually download articles and I can annotate it.
So what product is that?
This is called Remarkable.
Remarkable. So some time ago, I've been doing remote consultations for some time, many years, and I have a pad where I can write. I tried to use a whiteboard, but me standing up in front of my clients, try to use a whiteboard doesn't work well.
Yeah.
So then now I use a pad. And I put it up on a big screen, you can all vote. So it's very. I love that stuff.
This thing is great.
I love that stuff.
Very cool.
How long have you had it?
About a year.
And you here it is.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff on it. Stuff I didn't even know I had.
That's always the case. I was talking about this this week with some. But think about the kids today. They'll have their homework for the rest of their life. From first grade on, you have and every picture you ever took, and the same phone number for the rest of your life. It's like amazing.
It's going to follow you
forever. Yeah, and area codes don't mean anything.
Right? No. It used to be, It used to not only the area code, but then the first three letters, the first three numbers also would tell you where you're from. Yeah. So you're from that neighborhood. You knew from the phone number.
There were 5 in our neighborhood in the Beverly area. Everybody, Hilltop 5, Beverly 3, Prospect 9. Everybody knew them.
Yeah,
and it could get you down within a few blocks of where your house was.
And of course, everybody was 312 back then.
Yeah, we used to make fun of the 708ers.
I remember when 708 came out. It was, and everybody used to have the 312 shirts. Like, hey, 312 is like, and then they then they divided up Chicago. No, you're not a 312. Now I always was. I still have a 312 phone number.
Some people were.
Okay, what are we going to talk about for the Constitution?
The First Amendment, the freedom of speech portion of
now I got to take that.
Of the First Amendment. Are we back on?
No, we're always on, but we're not on the show yet.
Okay. You could have warned me. Brush up on my constitutional law.
Well, I could have.
But what fun would that be?
I think I did. You just didn't read the email I sent.
I thought it was just.
I'll have to remember that to read the damn thing. This is the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble, and the petition to government for a redress of grievances. Unless you're trying to insurrect. We don't let that happen.
Well, I think we got to put it in something.
I saw our El Presidente talk about, not American to be an insurrection. It's like, do you know where we came from? You know how we formed a nation? Kind of know where that came from. Insurrection is in our blood, mister. Oh, okay, that's just, hate to go off on that.
Just get out of your system.
Yes, the tree of liberty. I'm not advocating violence. I never advocate violence. But I advocate freedom and liberty. I advocate for that. Joliet, let us do the show. It's Constitution. Sit up, say. Thank you, Ronnie, for reminding us that. And we want to remind all of us that is the fact and the truth. And we like to talk about the Constitution here. Last time we had Attorney Olofsson in, we talked about the Second Amendment, and I thanked him so much because he said things that most people won't say. But I appreciate that. And let's see what he says about the First Amendment. Now, let me read the First Amendment first. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or of prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Thoughts, Attorney Olofsson?
So to narrow down a little bit, the free speech portion of the First Amendment, that's a big amendment, and there's a lot to talk about.
There is.
We could go on for months.
And some do.
Yeah. So the free speech portion, if I called you a dog-faced pony soldier, that wouldn't be hate speech, although you might take it as that. And it is protected speech, unless there's some connotation to that I'm not aware of. The fascination or fixation that some people have with microaggressions and you're making me uncomfortable with your speech, therefore you shouldn't come to our campus and talk, is repugnant to me.
And the First Amendment.
And in light of the First Amendment is where my repulsion of that that type of attitude comes from. And incidentally, it's the Second Amendment that gives teeth to that First Amendment that allows us to keep that. So I just had to bring that back in.
Well, I appreciate that. That was the part that I thought was, it's true.
It is.
And of course, we're getting a lot of pushback about that. It's like, you have to have whatever, like, take your number, planes to fight the government. And someone said, I think he said F-35s or something.
That'd be the new ones.
Whatever. That I have to remind him. I don't think the Afghanis had that before we left. Now they do. No. They didn't have that one before we left.
Yeah, we've gone to a place where we really shouldn't be. We shouldn't have government cracking down on people for what they say online and suing. Just to pick one, Alex Jones, for what he says online, and sometimes it's not the government, sometimes it's individual companies, and they have arguably a right to do that. It's not a good practice, even if you have the right to do it, to limit people's speech. I have a friend that asks me all the time, how do you feel about free speech? And I say I'm all for it, knowing that his next comment is going to be, great, we have a meeting coming up and we want you to do a free speech. But it is one of our most cherished. I just saw there's a guy it was an Australian news broadcast. Somebody at Wimbledon was spouting off to one of the judges. I don't follow tennis. One of the tennis players was talking to a line judge and saying that so-and-so this woman was bothering me while I was trying to play, and she's obviously drunk, and something about 700 drinks she had, and she's suing him for slander, and in this case it would be potentially liable because it was published, not just said, and it went viral, and I thought, well, here you probably wouldn't get away with that because if she was drunk, truth is a defense. Not in England. Under the British system, you're in trouble. Just for saying something, true or not.
This is I think we touched on this last time you were here too, about the truth, because the same thing in Canada, right? Truth is not a defense. When truth is no longer a defense, where do you go from there?
We take for granted a lot of our tremendous freedoms that the Constitution, and we throw away. Oh, you have freedom of speech. That's huge. It's fundamental to our government, to our way of life, and people are treating it with such disdain. I
agree with you. We should protect it, and we should nourish it, and we should make sure that our government doesn't. There is lawsuits now about Twitter and whether the CDC was sending messages to the social media companies on who to
vilify.
Yes, and censor, and that would be different than if a company did it themselves. So thanks so much for talking about the First Amendment. I think you can never talk enough about it. So I appreciate you bringing that one up, and I hope. Let's never forget. So we're going to take another break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk to Attorney Screwwalla. You won't want to miss it here on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you familiar with 560 BNC?
No.
Okay, so you moved here after a large amount of people were listening to radio. It's AM talk radio, conservative, basically station.
Basically.
And I mean, there's a wide that encompasses a wide.
Mm-hmm.
It's still bad, but
It's
it encompasses. Yes,
I was thinking. It was like that.
it was neat. But it's a great station, and it's been great for a long time. So.
We talked about stations last time because you told me about WCFL. WIND, what does it stand for?
I do not remember.
I think it's Indiana. Is it Joliet? WIND. Was it? It's Indiana, isn't it? What does it stand for? WIND. You don't know? Come on.
Yes.
Well, WGN stands for World's Greatest Newspaper.
It's the wind.
And you didn't know that? WLS. How about WLS? Did you know about WLS? That's the world's largest store. Sears owned it. And so I think WIND was in Indiana. And that's because I think your transmitter's still in Indiana, I believe.
WGN was World's Greatest Newspaper.
World's Greatest Newspaper.
And WCFL was the Chicago Federation of Labor.
Mm-hmm.
And WIND, I know it's, the Windy City, but I have no idea what that's for.
Again, I think it's Indiana, IND.
Okay.
That's my.
I got nothing to argue against that.
Yeah.
That's
you just don't know any different. Just like there's a north side, south side thing, there's in Illinois.
What's the divide? That's what I was wondering the other day.
Which divide?
North side.
Madison
south.
Avenue. Madison Avenue. That's where it's zero. Zero. Everything north is whatever your address north. Yeah. So if I'm on Ashland,
go up that way.
So if I'm on South Addison,
you're at South Addison. Addison is east-west.
East-west. Okay. Yeah. So that doesn't work.
No, there is an east-west there too, but that's State Street. So there's not a lot east. Yeah. There's not a lot east of State Street.
I'll try a different one. So I was in Pilsen last week.
That's south.
That's south. Eating tacos.
Yeah, well, that's where you
tacos on Blue Island.
That's
What's
where
Azteca Tacos on Blue Island.
No, I didn't know that.
It's a place.
Okay. No, we went and got tacos.
If you're in the Pilsen area, you should go to Bruno's.
Okay.
Excellent food.
We picked the wrong day to go. Yeah. Monday. Everything
was closed. Yeah.
Right. It's all closed. Monday stuff.
So I guess it is. I'm looking it up. They say here windy.
It could be just because of the wind.
Could be.
No, am I right that Windy City has nothing to do with the fact that it's windy? It's about the politicians.
That's correct.
But there is the hawk. I mean, that's a real thing. Okay. The wind.
Yeah.
And we in the loop in the winter. So
yeah.
Okay. It comes at you from whatever direction you turn. The wind is always in your face.
Michigan Avenue, right before the river, is brutal.
Michigan Avenue, just north of the river, they used to put ropes up along the street
so you can hang on to it,
so people wouldn't blow into the street.
Yeah. San Francisco, you get stairs.
Yeah.
Here we get ropes.
Yeah.
I have to look it up. I believe that's what it is, but it might be windy. But someone was telling me it was Indiana, so I could be right. I could be wrong. Both are good. Both are good. I like to, but now I have to go find out because that's what I do. I have to find these stuff. What would you guys have some connection? What are you guys working on together?
Well, we're both part of the same organization. It's an organization of estate planning attorneys called Lawyers with Purpose. And
can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's do that.
Uniquely qualified.
Uniquely. Okay, that's what we'll talk about on this segment. Lawyers with Purpose.
Lawyers with Purpose.
I have a purpose.
Okay. We all have a purpose.
Welcome back to the program. I like that discussion. I like if anybody listened to the show before, I like the Constitution. Okay. You should like the Constitution too. Let's fight for it. Let's try to preserve the Constitution. Let's not let them change it on us. Even surreptitiously. Is that right? Is that a word? Surreptitiously. Thank you, Attorney Olofsson. That's a word I don't use very often. And I'll probably avoid it from now on. Thanks for that. Welcome back to the program. We're here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer. Thanks for all you do, Joliet. We have Attorney Olofsson here. He helps people with estate planning. And Attorney Screwwalla, who also helps people with trusts and estates. And you guys are connected to some organization. Tell us about that organization.
Yeah, so in addition to the fact that we both do very similar things, we belong to an organization called Lawyers with Purpose, which is a nationwide network of estate planning attorneys, primarily in the elder law arena, so helping older people prepare for Medicaid, do their kinds of just general planning. And so Tom and I are part of that organization. There are over 100 attorneys all across the country. And we have a certain kind of mindset and philosophy on how we practice law, how we treat customers. It's very client-centered, very client-focused. And it's about delivering the best possible result for the client and giving the client what it is that they want.
Does this organization help with marketing, or is it more of a law-focused?
Lawyers with Purpose works on what we consider all four pillars of good, successful law firms. So, legal knowledge, technical skill, and doing estate planning, getting your operations and systems up in place. So everything is systems-based, how we treat our clients, how we work them through the process of getting an estate plan done. Everything is systematized and set up in an organized way. We work with people on getting all their financial systems in order, knowing that you got your cash flow, knowing that you can project your cash flow, actually knowing the word cash flow, which I find that most attorneys don't, and building a good culture and team around you, because as an individual attorney, there's only so much you can do. One of our members said when he started out practicing, he was also cleaning the toilets. So part of what we do is get you out of the bathroom and doing the things that make the firm money and building a good team and culture. And there's a lot more to it than just bringing a bunch of people on. It's bringing the right people on, putting them in the right seats, managing the firm the right way. And for anybody who wants it, our goal is to build what we call entrepreneurial freedom. And that's where you're running a practice where you can go away for a month, you come back, and everything is still humming just like the way you left it.
I like that. I think it does take a network of attorneys. Can't know everything, but it's nice to be able to call somebody when you have a question to ask. One thing about the Trust Radio Network is I have a network of attorneys, and whenever I have a question on something, I can reach out to someone and say, "Hey, what about this?" and get an answer. And I used to be involved with a group of attorneys for IRS stuff, and so we did some, what do they call it? You guys get together once a month? Do you guys get together on the telephone? Do you do some Zoom meetings?
There's a lot of webinars where somebody will talk about a particular thing. Usually somebody who's been at it a while and has their system running really well, so that they can give you their experience of how it's worked. And then we have twice a year firm retreats called Taper, where we can go and refresh our enthusiasm and get our new staff members trained. And there's actually a staff day where they go and complain about us. It works really well, really well. It's almost an entire environment that you enter, more than just somebody who's going to help you with your marketing.
Yeah. It's a community.
Yeah, it really is.
And a big part of community is fellowship.
Yep.
So a lot of fellowship at the.
Yeah. Usually at our Taper events, we have usually a member night where we go and do something fun. Tom, I won't tell you what we'll be doing in Dallas. But,
is that where you're going next? Dallas?
Yes. Next month, actually, we'll be in Dallas, and we'll be throwing things.
I'll have to ask you when you come back what that means.
That's called a tease.
We did axe throwing.
And you said you never do the radio. I've done axe throwing before.
At the last taper we did axe throwing, and there was karaoke, but I didn't catch the karaoke. I missed it.
I would avoid that at all costs.
I love singing. So
Is that right?
I would have loved it.
I like throwing axes.
like
I got good at it at the end. Takes some time to make them stick, but once you figure it out, it's not. It's a lot of fun. So this organization, you guys both are part of it. Is that how you met?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us how they can find you, Attorney Screwwalla.
Well, you can find me at screwwallallc.com. You can find Lawyers with Purpose at lawyerswithpurpose.com.
We talked a little bit about there's a online component. We're going to talk about that maybe in the next segment. Tell people how they can find you, Attorney Olofsson.
Well, they can look at their kitchen table because that's where I'll be meeting with them. But mytrustlawyer.com would be a good place to get started, or my phone. You can call 773-905-1193. I forgot my phone number.
It's changed
That's
since
how
last
often
time
I
you
call
were.
it, yes.
It's changed since you were. So thanks so much for that. Remember, this is the Trust Radio Network. We are sponsored by Open Tax Advocates. Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems forever. And so you can reach us at 312-664-6649 or chicagotaxteam.com. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Come on right back. We're going to talk about some online access here on AM 560. The Answer. Kind of broken.
This guy's off of there, and it's not. Yeah,
And this one,
that
too.
one's very rough. That's why it's not staying where you put it.
Okay, so tell me, before I get on, tell me a little bit about that, because you talked a little bit about it last time. I think the last segment last time, I didn't give you enough time to talk about
I
it.
have my system is not quite online yet, but it will be shortly, and it works. By all accounts of other people using it, it works out really, really well.
Do you think that this is, because we all know, you kind of alluded to the big one, and how they do it, but this is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Do you see that as a growing part of law, that this is the way it's going?
Yes. One of the big life insurance companies, Northwestern Mutual, you mentioned them online, they actually told their people, we're going to use this one company. So they're already pushing their financial advisors to use this one online service. It's not. It doesn't include lawyers, which is silly, but at least it gets people to move. And again, those big guys are not the competition. The competition is the people doing nothing. They always can say,
I like that.
It's like when you're in combat, the enemy gets a vote. The client gets to say, nah, I'm going to put it off for another 5 years.
Yeah. So
they do.
How do you, I can tell you from my own clients are
procrastinators, otherwise they wouldn't be in trouble with the IRS.
Usually that's true. And usually it takes some, like you were saying, there's some life events that happen. For my practice, there's three big things. One is trying to buy a home, right? So then you better get your tax returns done, and you haven't done your tax return, you're going to get a home. Second is knocking on the door from the IRS, or they take your bank account, something like that. Third one is marriage. That it's usually the woman who says, I ain't marrying you unless you fix this. And so those are the three things that make people come see me. Although I think, I'm interested in what this guider, because I think that there's a lot of room to help people with tax problems without a lot of big fee, And I think that, and I'm trying to get there. As I've been working on that for some time. One of the reasons why, I do a lot of radio, I do my podcast, is to so you can get comfortable doing this, and then be able to get on and talk to people on video and things. It's a learned skill, and you have to.
We can probably hook you up with the technologist that set up Guider. He also did he do Disney World's
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. He did that first. Moved on. This is his new thing.
Uh-huh.
He started small,
Yeah,
and then he came to with the purpose.
yeah. We're the big deal.
He practiced.
No, I really think that there's and that's why I'm interested in it, because where is it going? You know, how can you reach more people?
Mm-hmm.
As you pointed out, the real competition is not doing anything, and sometimes doing something. You know, even if it's not the best thing, is still something.
I tell people all the time, a bad plan is better than no plan.
I guess that's true. Yeah,
I usually tell them that so they'll make
a plan.
damn decision.
Yeah, so they get
I can't decide. Aunt Mabel, Uncle Shirley.
Yeah,
just decide.
Let's do something. Move it along. You can always change it.
Yeah.
You won't.
No, of course not. Unless the decision they made is so dreadful that it wakes them up at 2 a.m.
So
and they say, "Oh God."
Kind of anecdotally, I have someone that just called me, and they've been taking care of their uncle, and he passed, and he had made some arrangements that nobody knew about. You know, put somebody on a deed, you know, and of course, when you do that 10 years ago, 10 years later, that might not be what you would have done, you know, but nobody reviews it. Nobody just of course, nobody's going to die, you know, so.
I really don't let people put other people on their deeds. That's a shortcut for estate planning.
It's probably one of the worst things you can do.
Yeah, it's a way to give away your house.
It's like putting your people on. You know, they always put their niece or something on their checking account or something.
Yeah,
or,
and that's not the end of the world. I mean, what's the most you're going to have in your checking account? 10, 20 grand, something like that.
No, I have 4 million.
Well, you're a very successful estate planning attorney.
That's one of my competency questions. How much is in your checking account? And when they look at you and say $74 million, we're going to have to get a psychologist in here and talk to you.
But before you do that, write me a check.
Yes. Only half.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Guider. Okay, Joliet. Welcome back to the show. Now, I've been having too much fun on this show. Of course, we're here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer, Attorney Olofsson, Attorney Screwwalla, and I've been having too much fun, so I kind of neglected what I really wanted to talk about. Not really wanted to talk, because I've talked about what I really want to talk about. But you guys are involved with this group. Tell me the group. Lawyers with Purpose is also involved in some online helping people get online. We were just talking in between the break that it's better to do something than nothing, and to make it easier for people to do something. That's kind of what this Guider is, isn't it?
We've developed a program called Guider. It is an online platform for any individual to put together even the basics. So the basics would include something like a healthcare proxy and a power of attorney, or do a will or a trust plan. If they're not really ready to go sit down with a lawyer, if they're not ready for everything that we have to say, you can do it in a much easier, a simpler fashion. But what makes Guider different is that Guider is backed by an attorney. So anytime you go on the Guider platform, there will be an attorney associated with that.
So you're not alone.
Yep.
Because all these other stuff, you fill out this form and it fills it out for you and they send it to you, but nobody looks at it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what does it mean? Nobody knows. You know, maybe it doesn't mean what you think it means. It probably doesn't.
Generally doesn't. Well, there's enough errors that people make when they do them on their own. And we see them. The errors that things that make sense in your head when you haven't spent your time beating these rules into your head don't make sense when they get to court. So
and you can't know because you you don't have the experience of it. You know, as experienced attorneys, you've seen it, and so then you can say, well, this is how you can avoid that.
Yeah.
But if you've never seen it before, how do you know that you got to avoid it? You don't even know.
And they're always based out of good intentions.
Oh, everything's a good intentions.
There was a case involving a woman, and she made an estate plan that said, "I want to make sure my grandkids have their college paid for." And the result of that was that her daughter was evicted from the house that she was living in, because the trustee of the trust had to sell the house to pay for the kids' college. Right?
Yeah. So and of course,
I don't think Grandma wanted that.
She probably did not want that. And that's all that stuff, right? Is that you don't know what the law is, and a lot of times the law, it doesn't really make, at least to non-lawyers, doesn't make a lot of logical. To many lawyers, doesn't make logical sense, right? This is what the law says. And it's like, wow, who would do that? But how would you know that? You wouldn't, So I think I do think that's a big area of the law that's coming up, helping people who won't get help otherwise. And as you were saying, something's better than nothing. Something bad is better than nothing.
A bad plan is better than nothing.
At least you have a plan.
Because no plan is the government plan.
I think I'm going to say that's probably a bad plan. My own opinion. Okay, so thanks so much for joining us, you guys. I really appreciate it. I've learned a lot. We didn't get enough chance. We didn't do any war stories because people sometimes see themselves in these stories like, oh, that happened to my uncle. I don't want it to happen to me, right? And I know that you guys have a lot of great stories. We'll have to get you back to talk about those. I want to thank you both for being here, Attorney Olofsson, Attorney Screwwalla, trust and estate planning attorneys. You can find them online. They've already given you their stuff, and I only have 10 seconds, so they don't have enough time to do it today. But call me, 312-664-6649, and I'll put you in touch with them here on AM 560, The Answer.
Excellent. You slayed it.
You slayed it. I slayed it? Oh.
You got a great radio voice.
Oh, thank you.
Notice I didn't say you have a face for it.
I really don't.
Trying to be nice.
It's a good thing I changed my shirt.
Yes.
I want to let you guys know this show is going to run tomorrow at 4:00 because they have basketball or football, some sport tomorrow afternoon. So we're being bumped. I don't know. I fought him. I lost. So we're going to be on at 4:00 tomorrow. Also, I'll send you a copy of this show. It is on Vimeo. It'll be on YouTube. It's on Facebook. We're streaming live now to all of those, and what's the other one? What's the business? I'm drawing a blank. LinkedIn is what I'm thinking. Yeah. We are in LinkedIn right now. I get a lot of good response from LinkedIn. So I want to thank you guys again. I think we should talk more about the online stuff, since that's kind of my thing. I like that kind of stuff. I really think that's where it's going. And I not only because of that, but even to make yourself available. I think making yourself available to people in their homes is important. Mm-hmm. Zoom is one thing. And that, I think, it does a lot. As I mentioned, I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing the online stuff. It used to be very unique, and if I got somebody to do it online, they were almost for sure going to sign, because nobody else did that, right? But now everybody does it. It's like, so now it's not so.
Now it's the time it doesn't.
No, it may not sign. Although I usually don't put them on unless they're going to sign. Waste my time. No, I shouldn't say that. Because here's one on the radio. I always give everybody my phone number and tell you, hey, if you have a question, call. Right? People could call you both, right? And ask you questions about what's that. And I think that's important. And I want people to know that they could call you and with a question, and not really worry about getting charged for it. Because I always get that question: are you charging me for this? No. And then, have I gotten your debit card number? I don't have that yet, so it's free. But being on the radio, I do offer that a lot, and people take you up on it. And my wife says, "Wait, I tell people to call me. What would it look like if I didn't even take their call?"
Yeah.
So now this week, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be on. I'm going to be on David Hochberg's show tomorrow, 10 to 1 on WGN, and I'm going to be on Let's Get Legal. I think it's at 2:00 on Sunday. Also, they're changing their times for football too because they had Northwestern football and basketball, so they're going to be changing their times. So I'm going to be on. So listen, call. If you've got a question, call. So thanks so much, gentlemen, for joining us. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. We'll have to have you both on again.
Next time I'll be more prepared for the constitutional segment.
And I will be more prepared with your picture, and because I did not have it.
So as you predicted, the pronunciation got perfect.
Well, look at it.
So we should have done it in reverse.
Yes, that's true. Although I looked at your name and then just ignored the V.
Yeah.
Then it's easy.
That's easy.
Yeah. So again, thanks so much for joining us. We are going to do the out. Hey, thanks, Joliet.